Be sure to stick around because at the end is the best advice I could probably give anybody that will help them for the rest of their life. Well, hello there, friends. So today we're going to be answering the age-old question, how much should I charge? I know some of you don't take the time to read the comments, but I know that some of you do. Those that do always gain so much more. This is the video that had to be made at some point. Over the years, I've had hundreds of viewers ask about how much that they should charge or that they have a problem with pricing, of how much they should charge by the hour. Really, it is up to the person that's doing the work. Okay, it's not like a price tag on a Walmart shelf, is what I always tell them. So literally, I have answered this question over and over and over and over hundreds of times. You know, I have thousands and thousands of comments on my YouTube channel, and I answer every single one of them. And those of you know, you know. So anyway, I just gotten kind of into the habit of typing in there and telling them that the price always is going to be a factor of a lot of different things. You know, like where you live, the area that you live in is going to have a lot to do with it. Well, but first and foremost, it's really going to be the person's experience. How many years of experience do they have? You know, do they have 1 year? Do they have 5 years? Do they have 10 years? 20 years? 45 years? Okay. So the person that has 45 years experience is probably going to charge more than the person that has 2 years experience. Right? I mean, that's just logical. A lot of that has to do with a lesser experienced person having to learn the ropes, you know, and they're trying to fill it out because, you know, they have no experience. They need to figure it out. So now we're going to change screens and I'm going to show you an actual viewer's comment and how I answered him. So let's go. If you find value in my upholstery tutorials, now is an easier way to contribute to my YouTube channel. Buy a coffee by scanning this QR code now. Thank you. So this is a comment that I got in the video, Learn Upholstery, the world's easiest boat cushion. So Garryww3380 wrote a comment to me. Hello, Gary. So what he asked about was, he says, can you tell me how much you charged for this cushion? Sorry to ask, but I'm having problems with a fair price on my jobs. So I thought, you know what? I think I should probably answer this one once and for all, even make a video about it. So I wrote back to him. I said, hello, Gary. I didn't answer right away because this is a very special comment. I wanted to give you advice that you can take with you all your life. First of all, you must change your mindset about prices. If you focus on a fair price, you will struggle financially. The bottom line is, regardless of the price that you give, if the customer agrees, they believe the price is fair. To have the best life for you and your family, you must quote what you now believe to be an impossibly high price, then quote even higher than that. Right now, you must think I'm crazy. After all, if your customer agrees to this crazy high price, you are winning. Believe me, there have been many times I have done this and the customer said, that's all. So the rule of thumb, just ask what is fair to a poor person and what is fair to a wealthy person. Perceived value is very different for each. Pro tip, go fishing where the fish are. I always put that in my comments. You guys know that. Only do retail, never ever do work for dealers or wholesalers. You will get paid half of the retail for the same work. Never focus on poor customers. Never charge by the hour, only charge by the job. If you are charging, say, $75 an hour or $150 an hour, this is the value that you are putting on your life. Don't do that. Ultimately, this is all up to you. Ask yourself, do you want to struggle or prosper? I do have several business side videos that can change your life. Start with this one, and I'll put that link below. I know that there's a lot here for you, but you're worth it. Please contact me in 1 year to let me know how your life has changed, okay? Now go get 'em. Thanks, Richard. So, wow. What are you guys thinking? Put in comments what you're thinking right now. Sunset Originals sent me a comment. Says there's a magazine called Marine Fabricator. I used to subscribe to it, I think once a year. They had a guideline for quoting labor jobs. I think a cushion like that would be about 1.5 to 2 hours labor. And Philip Hall told me that's another great tip for finding a pricing guideline, Richard. Thanks for answering his question. Just another reason to read the comments. Always learn good things here too. Philip Hall. Hello, Philip. How you doing, buddy? So now I get to answer Sunset Originals comment. Hey, Sunset. How you doing, buddy? So I write, hello, Sunset. I love you, but I need to disagree. Pricing depends entirely on the person that is doing the work, their experience, what they are working on, the design of the item, and the materials chosen, and even the area that you live in. How can a guide know all of that? It is not like a price on a Walmart shelf. See, there I go. Oh, and never charge by the hour. Just saying. Hee hee. Please keep liking and watching. And now it's Philip's turn. I put, hello, Philip. Thanks for the comment as always. You know, he's a true blue. He's there for me every week, every Sunday. Says, but please go back and read my answers. You will understand me better. Please keep liking and watching. So I figured if he referred back to the answer that I gave Sunset Originals, that way I wouldn't have to repeat myself again. So I'm sure he probably did. Wow. So what do you guys think so far? Am I, like I said, am I a jerk, or am I helping people here by giving this advice? Does it make any sense? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, when they're trying to price something, they're like, well, you know, I don't want to take advantage of somebody, or I don't want to give too high of a price and then lose the job. All of these things. So first of all, if the customer agrees with you and you shake hands and then you guys agree on the price, well, you know, you just scored, right? So that's like your best case scenario. So on the other hand, if you're afraid of giving too high of a price, you always remember this, that you can always lower your high price, but you can never raise your low price, okay? So you do have that wiggle room, and it's all part of the art of negotiation. You know, so what I always say with negotiation 101 is you start with your high price. Okay, then they give you their low price. And then you're supposed to meet halfway in the middle, right? And then that's how you guys end up with an agreement. That's really the proper way of doing a negotiation. But you know, you're still going to get those customers that walk in, and you can even give them a low price, and they'll say, oh, that's too much money. I had one guy that came in here, and I didn't even give him a high price, you know, because I try to pre-qualify my customers when they come in, so that way you can kind of get an idea where they're coming from. And you know, that's also how you can gauge your price. So he comes in, and I gave him a price that I thought was pretty reasonable. It wasn't out of this world, but man, he got really upset at me. he took his stuff and he grabbed his stuff and he's like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to pay that price. You're highway robbery. Ah, da, 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 da. So, he ended up leaving, and I know I'm never going to see that guy again. I'm just glad that, he's, as far as I know, he hasn't said anything bad about me. But anyway, I'll tell you what, there's that side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is, the people that have the money. Like I say, I've given quotes before where I thought it was like out of this world, in the stratosphere. And they were like, "Oh, I had no idea that it was only going to be that much." And then I'm like, "Darn! I feel like I left some money on the table. I could have even asked more than that, and they still probably would have said yes." So this is what I'm talking about. Different people have a different value of money. What you think is expensive to yourself, other people might not think of as expensive, or what people might think of as cheap, other people might think of as really expensive. Okay, so half of the battle is like throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping you hit the target, because you never really know where that dart is going to land. So that's also part of the risk taking. So but in the end, I realize that some of the prices that I do charge while I'm doing that job, I'm like, golly, I'm so glad that I charged this really high price, because this job is really beating me up, or this job is really taking a long time for me to do. That's why I don't charge by the hour. I charge by the job. Always charge by the job. It's the other thing is, uh, even if I charge my minimum price, right? You charge your minimum price, say it's $125, $150, or whatever your minimum is. Okay, if it took you 15 minutes to do, okay, where would you make more money? By doing it by the job for $125, or by doing it by the hour if you were charging $45 an hour? Okay, now who's winning? Who's losing? Okay, so some people might say, well, that's robbery. Okay, why are you charging $150 an hour for a 15-minute job? Well, then I guess that's when you got to tell them, well, it took me 45 years to know what I'm doing to only take 15 minutes to do the job. Okay, now this is where you laugh, okay? Laugh, applause. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot of different situations when it comes to pricing things. But you are the business owner. You are the one that has to provide for your family and your family's future. So, you can be Mr. Nice Guy and hurt yourself and let other people take advantage of you. You know what's really funny? I've even heard people say, well, if you charge a really low price, you get more work. I guess it probably, what fits in that description is wholesale and like car dealers, right? So you do the same amount of work for half the price. Okay, that makes absolutely no sense. Why in the heck would anybody do that? That's why I always say stick with retail, stick with full-blown retail. Okay, because you're doing the same amount of work. Why not get paid more for it? For me, that's a no-brainer. And I hope that those of you out there that have said, well, I want to be the cheapest guy in town because they'll give me more work. So they're like saying a little bubble thing over their head, that little cartoon bubble that says, I'm an idiot. I will do double the work for the same amount of money. Okay? Don't be that guy. Everybody's heard the term work smarter, not harder. Okay, would you rather be working 18 hours a day to make $300? Or would you rather work 4 hours a day to make the same $300? Well, come on, put it there in comments. I want to know what you're saying, what you're thinking. Do you agree with me? Or am I off my rocker here? Am I going to lose subscribers because everybody's pissed off at me? I'm telling you, I wish I would have known these strategies. These are things that I learned over the years, over the decades. But if I had known this when I was young, when I was just first starting out, because I was there. I was doing car dealers. I was doing vinyl tops at the car dealers on their used car lots. I was doing mobile work, and I thought, yeah, they're going to give me all kinds of work. They're going to give me all kinds of work. And the other thing is, never do work for somebody that promises you future work. They say, oh, give me a discount and I'll send you all this work. Okay, red flag, red flag, red flag. Don't do that. So I guess the main point in all of this is think of your family, think of your livelihood. Okay, these people are out there to take advantage of you. People, they'll pay they'll pay nothing to get something all day long. Everybody wants to pay the cheapest price for something, and that's really not the customer that you want. You want the full-blown retail customer, somebody that walks in your door, they tell you what they need done, you give them the ridiculously high price, and they agree to it. And he's happy, you're happy. So is that highway robbery when everybody agrees? I don't think so. You're solving their problem. They come to see you because they have a problem. So you solve their problem. They go home to their wife and they say, look, there's not a problem anymore. Look at this beautiful seat now. This seat here has no problem. We were thinking about selling the car, but it had this big hole in the seat. People, they come to look at the car, they see the hole in the seat, they know there's a lot of other cars out there that don't have a hole in the seat. So they walk away. So they're happy because now they can sell their car. These are the kind of things that you're doing and helping people. You're providing a service and people are just going to start throwing money at you. That's the whole point of all of this. So like I said in the earlier comment, all of you watching this video, if you take my advice, get back to me in a year and tell me how your life has changed. Tell me how everything has exploded for you. See, I tell you what, once I started doing this, the business just exploded. When I was in Arizona, I thought I was doing a pretty good income, but it was nothing compared to when I came here to Texas. Because I polished my way of negotiation. And not only that, I moved from Houston. Okay, 7 million people. Okay, I was doing pretty good there. But then when I moved to a small town, my business just exploded. I was worried because I thought, well, could this small town, can it support me? Can it support my business? Am I going to lose business because it doesn't have 7 million people? But I'll tell you what, my income like tripled when I moved here to this little town. You know what? And nobody thinks of me as taking advantage of anybody. Because I want to make sure that my customers, they leave here very satisfied, and they always do. I have the best reviews, and they don't even know I have a YouTube channel. They just find me, they always Google upholstery shop near me, and I always come up because you know what, I'm the only game in town, right? So I do have that going for me, and I really don't have any competition. So, but even though I'm in this little small town, people are coming from all over Texas. I mean, they're driving 2 or 3 hours just to come and drop something off to me. It's happened many, 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 many times. I'd have to say probably maybe 1/3 of my customers maybe aren't even from this area. So please follow my advice. It'll only help you. It's not going to hurt you. Okay, there's no pain in providing for your family. They're going to love you for it. You're going to be able to provide your children with things that they need. Your wife with things that she needs, or your husband, wives and husband, right? Okay, I'm sorry if I talked your ear off or bored you, but hey, this is life. This is the real deal. So now it's time for the $1 million advice that you didn't have to pay for. What that is you'll never want to be known as the cheap guy. Okay, you never want to have that reputation for being the cheap guy. On the other hand, what you really want is you want to be the reputation for being the most expensive guy. Okay, you want people to talk about you and say, well, he's really expensive. So that way, when they do walk in your door, they're not shocked and surprised. So until next time, we'll see ya. If you like this video, you'll really like the next one.